Let me walk you guys through an example of a real project. It was a big deal at the time. And this was when we started learning about sections, and then we're using sections to arrange our files. And it's a very interesting concept. There's something called HelloFresh. For those of us in Nigeria, HelloFresh is like it's food recipe. So I can say I want to eat pounded yam and a fori roll, but instead of them to deliver cooked food to me, they will deliver the ingredients that will be required to make portions for each person. That kind of concept. Basically, that was kind of like the concept of this. And yeah, the design, you would see there's a lot of frames. There's a lot of auto layouts. There's auto layout inside of auto layout. If you're looking at the layers, there's another auto layout inside of that. Again, this is what you guys should be learning. I see all the buttons. The buttons are auto layout. If you look at things in here, these buttons, auto layout, because it has this setting, you'll be able to see the auto layout in there. All of these things like this, should be able to do them generally, right? Now, structuring things is a whole different ball game. Being able to say, okay, how many auto layouts should I combine to get things to be arranged like this? Because you have to notice that these ones, they will have their own auto layout. Is because this one is one text on its own, this is another one on its own. This is two different elements. But in order for them to have a separate arrangement from the one on the side, this one also needs to have its own as well. There's a lot of different techniques. There are some tools in here in the auto layout settings. I can say I want things to fill the container. Once I say it fills the container, that white background will be the exact height of this entire section. And then we can just change arrangement. Then it's at the center or it's at the top. But again, there's something about visual accuracy. When your eyes is looking at something, you are scanning through. We want things to align. Therefore, centering this is not good. Now you've broken the eye scan of looking at things from the left to the right, because that's how English language works. Now you've now brought this down. So there's like an inconsistency there. So one of the best ways is to just leave it at the top. But at the same time, you can then maybe take it down enough, just allow it hug and maybe just give it like a little bit of padding at the bottom. But one of the important things to just know is padding are very important. White space is good for anything you are designing. Anything you are designing, white space is good. Basically, all of these things, arranging multiple things, auto layouts, inside of auto layouts, inside of auto layouts. This is an auto layout. These are that one. All these auto layouts are auto layouted together to be able to be arranged like this. And then there's another one at the bottom. You understand? Now, inside of all of it, so that this area can be arranged like this. Everything here that has auto layout inside auto layout is now auto layouted together so that we arrange them in this specific way. I will explain it in some ways. I'll try to make sure that you guys understand it. But pretty much over and over, you design every single page of your apps. And then before you do it, you have almost like an entire design, an entire complete thing. Being able to schedule months ahead, weeks ahead, customize each meal. You want them to deliver only on Mondays or Tuesdays, you can do that now. I've done some updates after working together since then. And then components. See what I mean when I said components? Now, these are components. These are component sets. But these component sets now have components within the components. It's a very interesting concept. This is a component that is inside a main component. There could be some, this one too is supposed to switch. This is a component from somewhere else that is inside this main component. It's like a myriad of things. And it really depends on the need, what you need it to be able to do. If you have a specific function or way you want things to work, then that if there's a main, what is it called, component, then if something inside of that component needs to change states, then that thing that needs to change state needs to be a component on its own outside first that you have created. Then you now bring it inside of this place so that it works inside of here too. But the mobile app itself was just what they launched. The website has been launched for, I think, almost 2 years now, probably almost 2 years now. But then they had to come back and they wanted to do a mobile app. And the mobile app is pretty much what it is. Very simple, very straightforward, prototyping, everything is linked. You can click on this and then it will do exactly what it needs to do. I click on this, it will go in, I can see more things, I can click, read more, download the PDF if I wanted to. filter. I can filter for specific meals. Something will pop up from the bottom. You can change. These are components, inside components. I understand that kind of thing. This is the level of detail you should be able to add to any product. I can say, I want to get started. I want to create a meal plan. How many recipes do I want per week? I want 3 recipes per week to put it there. If I want 2, if I want 4, I can say I want, okay, this didn't go well, but developers have already worked. They can select the category. If I'm vegetarian, that means only veggies and fish, maybe. I can pick. Therefore, everything I would see from here on out would only be vegetables and fish type stuff. But in design, the content itself is not really something we worry about. Now, some companies worry a lot about the content. You will notice, again, for Nigerian companies, we build this way. We are short on time. We have to build fast. The concept, the engineers will understand the concept of how things are supposed to work. The foods and the meals I'm seeing would depend on what I have chosen. But in the UK, they like to be they'll show every flow. If I choose vegetarian, they want you to design all of those pages. Basically, just be ready to do that work. Even though it's boring to be able to say, oh, I'm looking for images of only vegetarian meals and the titles of vegetarian meals and then description of vegetarian. You have to put everything in there. In Nigeria, it's a little bit more fast-paced. We build that the engineers understand the concept and then they build. You understand? All of these you can customize, add new things to the plan, and then you can remove things from the plan as well. And then proceed, add an address, things like of this nature. Pick an address. See, these are components that I created. If I wanted to enter address manually, I can click on this and then to allow me enter address manually. Once I save the address, the end, I just continue to payment. I enter payment information, and that's the end. And then the meal plan is created and is active. You understand? Things like this, you should be able to, should I say, create things like this. Also, all these menu options. If I want to pause my meal plan, once I click on pausing for a week, or yeah, pause the plan. Right now, it's in a page that is saying, how did you get to this level? It's by constantly doing it. And you trust me, you will make a lot of mistakes, but you will keep correcting those mistakes as you are designing. That is how it works. You don't just design once and it's always perfect. You will link something you discover that did not link well. You go back to test it. And then you just make some changes to it. Everything here, auto layout based. If I needed to remove something, add something, arrange anything, it's easy. And that is the point of the auto layout thing. Products like this are all over the place, but some people always say, oh, don't use work laptop for personal things. Yeah, pretty much auto layout, everything, auto layout this, auto layout that, another one inside of it, another one inside of that auto layout. That's typically how it just works. There's a website called Mobbing. This is one of the best places to go. Anytime you need inspiration for design and you want to check pages of real apps or real websites, Mobbing is one of the best places to go. Almost every great app in the world, all their UI screens are here. You can go there, save a picture, and then just check it out. I already have an account. I'm not paying for Mobbing, obviously, because why would I be paying to see screenshots? And I don't think they're expensive. Let me see. £8 per month. They're mad. Anyway, let's go ahead and let's check. I want to show you guys how to structure your auto layout, and I will explain using, should I say, existing apps that pretty much have some simple or complex layouts. I feel this has it's not that too complex, but I think it's a little bit complex. Let me just duplicate that. Let's go into finance apps. Let's see. Something like this, guys. Let me open that as well. I'll just take one screenshot each from each. Which app can we look at again? Let's not look at only finance. Let's check out e-commerce. I know a lot of shopping. There's Nike. I know people like Nike. Let's just open Nike as well. And let's see. I'm trying to check maybe, okay, Amazon shopping. Everybody uses Amazon. Let's just do that. Now, let's go inside of this. I beg. No, they survey me. I don't get them. I just need one of the pages. I like that example, the one with the map. Let me just pick
the map. Yeah.
let me copy and let's come in here. Okay. I have that. Let's go back. Let's check banking app. Which page should we pick from? Okay, these are the only pages that we have available. Which page should we pick? Now, whenever one of the things again is I typically just like to space things equally. I'll just say the space between them should be this is space between. That's kind of like what this one is. W is width, H, then anytime you select multiple things that are side by side or top to bottom, you show you the space like between them so you can control that. I just typically just say like 100 to arrange them equally. Now, their width and height is very different. See, this is 1,170, this one is 1,290, 1,179. These are very random numbers. For me, I'll most times use an actual frame size to size all of these guys. And all I'll just do is just change one. For this one, this is 390. I like these guys, and I'll just say 390 for the width. The height will adjust automatically. I'll just say 390. Good. And then I'll just change that distance between again to 100. Now I have a good size. Let's go inside. If you guys notice, and pay very close attention, right, to what I'm about to do. I'll use the pencil tool to explain, and I'll make the pencil red. That if I draw anything, you see it clearly. Now, most times your icons will typically just come as icons from Iconify. Now, but this part of this 55, you have to add it yourself. Can anybody show me how do we create this 55 with this thing using auto layout? It's already looking like it. And pretty much that's how you create that. You just add this to your icon. Now, this doesn't have to be auto layouted with the icon. If you want things to be structured properly, like overlapping things can never happen in auto layout, except you detach it from the auto layout. But this 55 right now is like just basically what I did, but you are adding it to the icon. You understand? So it's going to be in the icon in a way that doesn't distort the size of the icon. That's typically how that is done. Now, one of the second things for you to now notice on this same line as well, I want you guys to see design in that is boxes within boxes. They are going to be the main phone itself, screen is the box. Then there are now different sections at the top. But inside this section as well, there can now be other boxes as well inside. There can now be other boxes inside that are like just subsections of whatever. And then at the bottom of it again, there can be another area that is a big box that then can now have other boxes inside. Just imagine things as imaginary boxes, everything as imaginary boxes. And this is pretty much color psychology as well, right? You see how color can best with your eyes. If the
Maybe
color
if
is
like
blue, yeah, I think white is probably better. Yeah, basically, you would see, imagine things as boxes, even on that part of the app where it's typically like that navigation at the bottom of the page. Imagine it as a box that is touching the base, but then inside, imagine those icons inside with the text, right? Inside of boxes and then text. And then imagine the next one again as a box, but there's an icon inside, and then there's text, and then the next one, and then the next one. You understand? No matter the number of these, just imagine them as small boxes contained within small other boxes. Now, each of the box, think of it as an auto layout. Always think of it as an auto layout. Let's come back. Let me now use that box concept to now explain how you can achieve the same thing. Let me go back to red, because red is a little more visible on this canvas. Think of this guy, right? Every icon will be a frame. This is a frame, and this is another frame. Now, this is a different distance from the distance of whatever is written there, because this is probably somebody's name. This is a shorter distance than this. Therefore, these two will be in their own auto layout together. This one is just a frame. That's fine. This one is good afternoon. But this guy changes. We always look at this good afternoon as one box, But then this one too has another box. The two of them together, because they have a unique distance, I'll just give them their own auto layout. If I was the one designing this, they'll be in their own auto layout together. Now, one thing I'll now do for this entire line is, now you'll now notice something. The distance here is different from, it's a very short distance here. Therefore, these ones on this side first will have their own auto layout first. And then after that, I will now auto layout everything together, you understand, as one. You get? If you want to have separate distances between things to look unique, you have to do each distanced item as its own auto layout. You understand? That is the best way to do it. Let me just draw it again. You can see that is auto layout within an auto layout within auto layout. You understand? Because this is an auto layout. This is another auto layout. This is just a frame. But then we have to auto layout these two together to maintain this distance. And then we'll put them in one. And then to now have this wide gap, we now have to now do everything as an auto layout with the frame here. Understand? Now, this one's here. I'm sure you guys already know how to get this, right? I don't have to teach you guys. Already, this one is just an auto layouted button. Think of each of them as boxes as well. But boxes encapsulated by one big auto layout that arranges them from left to right down to the outside of the screen. You understand? And pretty much that's that. Yeah, you see, we have these are just buttons, but these buttons are auto layout, but then they've been auto layouted separately together to just be arranged left to right. It is outside. Now here, obviously they are hiding of information, but if I could guess, I'll guess that there's some kind of number here and there's another number down here. These two, because they are an L shape, they are auto layouted together. And then this one, it stands alone. This one too is a box, right? But it's a text box, you understand? Then, in order to now get this entire thing, I'll just say an auto layout will be holding all of these guys together as one. Now, this is a big auto layout, but it's holding another auto layout inside with text. But the auto layout inside is just two text top and bottom. But then the main auto layout outside is arranged left to right because we wanted this guy to be here. I wanted this one to be here on the other side. And you can always change the arrangement if you wanted it to be top and bottom. It just means this one will just come down. Let's zoom out again. Here too. This is text already. And this is also another text, right? And this is this. Now, this line is telling us that we have to consider this top area separately from this bottom area. Therefore, this one is an auto layout, text and text, top and bottom arrangements with the auto layout. And then this was a standalone text. Therefore, I would encapsulate all of that as well in another auto layout externally with the other text on the side so that it can be arranged left to right. Now, the one on the bottom, what I'll just do is just say we have text and we have icon. I just say this box and this box together would then be one auto layout that they are arranged left to right as well. And then at the end of it, I'll just pick around the two of them. You understand? Now I've already handled the auto layout of this. It's just the same concept. Before you do it, by creating just this one, you've already created, you're just going to duplicate. You're not going to duplicate to have this. You're going to duplicate to have this. Is the only one that's different. And you can just have a duplicate, two duplicates of this, but stripped down to make one of this, and that's the end, right? We'll get to that point anyway. We can manipulate it to be many other things that you want it to be. You understand? And that's just kind of like the beauty of it. And then at the end of the day, what do we now do? We're also going to look at it and say the entire page too. One of the things I've started doing is I'm now making all my entire pages as an auto layout. Once I make the entire page an auto layout, I can add and remove things at will and things will shift accordingly. But then there are some rules to doing this. There are some rules to doing this auto layout for the entire page, which we'll talk about a little bit. I want some new sets of people to now tell me about this page as well. This top area, what do we do here? What I wanted you guys to just say. That's the point. This one now will be a auto layout on its own, and then this one is just on its own. It's not an auto layout, but then everything together will be in its own auto layout. Now, this line, you don't have to draw a line. All you just do is this auto layout. You can stroke the auto layout, and you can see only the bottom part of that auto layout should have a line. And that is how we get these lines. You don't have to go in here to be. This line tool is one of the most useless things, except maybe I'm drawing a graph. That's when I can probably use it. But really, in design, in most designs, I almost never thought this line and arrow because it's not really needed. You understand? Same thing, training and gym, the same method. Then after, let's say after you now have all of this same method for everything here, what do we now do next? For everything on the list, we just auto layout only everything that looks similar. We'll auto layout all of them together. But you notice this next is floating at the top. This next is like a text that is auto layouted as a background. But what we'll now do is this text will just be floating. It's not going to be part of the auto layout. This is basically a break in the rule. Okay. Basically, you guys will notice this one is just floating around. Anything, if you want something to float around, you'd have to make sure it is detached from an auto layout. And I'll show you how that is done. Let us just first get this box method of seeing page layout. This one is the most complex one. We'll come back and look at it. Let's come back here. I want somebody to start from this top area. How do I do the auto layout of this? Arrange your text like this, the image, then you now start adding the auto layout. Or if you have the idea of what you want to do from the start, you can just start doing the auto layouts from the top. You can do it in so many ways. This one too, very simple. This text and this text together as one auto layout. This button and this tertiary button as well, one auto layout. And then everything together in one grand auto layout. Bagam, the end. This one is just text and image. One grand auto layout as one, but arranged top to bottom. You understand? And these are just mini top to bottoms combined together in another grand top to bottom auto layout. And pretty much that is how auto layout works. You use it to arrange things really quickly. If you really understand it this way, you see that it's not something that is really hard. You understand? But the activity of now doing it, there are certain settings that will be fucking itself up, which I'll show you guys in a bit. Let's come in here. This is the one that you guys are seeing as complex. Now, what I'll do is this one. I have this icon, I have this text. Both of them together in one auto layout. Here as well, icon and icon, one auto layout. And then at the end of the day, but there are maps generators that can generate the map for you. Now, what I would do is instead of auto layout, I'll then make a frame. Because auto layout will automatically arrange things. Frames will allow you to be able to freely arrange things. I'll make a frame that moves all the way to the bottom of the entire page. Let me go back up. Inside of that frame, I will have the image of the map in the entire background. I'll have the image of the map in the entire background. And then I'll start placing these circles. Let's start from here. Let's just do the GS25. We have GS25. Size 12, which is fine. I'll do Shift A. Now I have that. I'll do a background. I'll just sample the same blue they used. Sample. And then corner radius, but you can see it's not well rounded. If you want to get a real rounded shape from your auto layout, you then have to break the structure of the W and H. You have to make sure your W and your H is equal. My W is 31. 31 is not a multiple of 8. I'll just say 32. I'll manually change it. Now it's a fixed height. It's not going to hug again. Now, the width too, I want it to be 32 as well. I'll just click on that and just say 3, 2, enter. Now I have my GS25. But you can see my text is looking like it's almost bigger than the circle. But if you notice here too, it's almost touching the edge as well. All I could just do is just come, I'll just reduce the size of the text to 10. But you can see, as I changed the height, sorry, the size of the text, this guy did not change size anymore because I had manually fixed the width to 32 and the height to 32. And now the position I want is for it to be at the center, and that's why it's at the center. Now, the second one, for 2, all I'll just do is duplicate. I'll change that text to 2 again. I want this to be smaller. Instead of 32, I'll probably go down to about a 24 or even a 16. And then my width as well, I'll go down to 16. But this time, the background is going to be a dark background. What I'll now do is not going to be to just, again, it's always good to name things, right? But for now, I'll just put them next to each other and then I'll align them and just auto layout them. Now, auto layouting them will not allow me to be able to place things on top of each other. But then there's something called the distance of things. As much as you can do positive distances, you can also do negative distance. If I say -8, it will come into overlap over this with a number of -8. But the problem that I have with this is there's no way for this guy to now go up more. Therefore, that's kind of like a wasted endeavor. What I'll do is I'll go back to 0, but then I can select this guy. It will be in the auto layout, but the rules of the auto layout automatic placement will not apply to it anymore. Once I select it, you see something here called ignore auto layout. You want this guy, these two, to ignore the auto layout so that you can place it on top of that area. Once I click on that, the auto layout has now adjusted down. I can now use my mouse to freely move it anywhere I want. I'll just move it like that. And now I have exactly that same thing. Whenever I want to move things, if you are dragging things, don't drag from the 2. Drag from the name of the frame called frame 14. And then you have this fully formed. You can have 2 auto layouts with one following the rules and the other one not following the rules because you want to place it on top of the other one. You understand? I can bring it down more if I wanted to. I can shift it to the left a little bit more. Whatever I want, I can place it however. There are no rules to your placement. Just make sure you place it in a nice way, and that's all. Pretty much, that's like an example. Now, I want you guys to do the same thing. Create 2 circles with your auto layout. Remember, any shape, any text you use, could be W for work, could be whatever. Just put text, make an auto layout out of it. Then let's try to create a badge. Now, we typically call this badge. Badge just means on your WhatsApp when you receive messages. If you see 57, that means you have 57 messages that you've not read. If it's your email, if you see that red counter that tells you have 22, that means 22 emails have not been read yet. That's basically what that means. I want you guys to also do this same thing as well. And then once you are done, let me know. If you face any problems, tell me. Just remember, the second thing you create, you first have to auto layout both things together. Then the second one, which is the smaller one that has the counter on it, you have to go to the area where you see position and then ignore the auto layout. But you first have to select it to make sure you are highlighting the right thing that you want to ignore the auto layout. Then you can just position it however you want. Don't use your mouse to click and drag to position. Use the up, down, left, right key on your keyboard to arrange it manually. Because if you drag it, you have a risk of dragging it into the other auto layout. I want you guys to try to replicate exactly the same thing I just did. Let's say I have this guy. Let me delete this one. Let's even just say I've done the first one. If I make a copy for the second one, and then I just change this to a 2, you see, this doesn't adjust automatically because I have changed the width and height to be automatic. Now, I want it to be a multiple of 8 because that's the industry standard. I'll just go down to maybe 16 by 16 for the height and the width. Now I have that. I'll just change the background color, obviously. Let me just do it manually here. All I now have to do is I have to pick the 2 of them together and then auto layout them together first. They are now one together. It's just an auto layout that does not have a background. I'll now select the 2. I'll now make it ignore the auto layout of that is holding 2 of them together, so that I can position it at the top edge. Just move it with my arrow key I'll just move it up, down, left, wherever I want it to be. And then pretty much voila, that's it. Let me select this one. Allow the auto layout again. Select the entire thing, right? And then position, scroll up, you see position. Ignore auto layout. Then you have to just manually use your left and right arrow to just move it up, down, left, right, wherever you want, right? Wherever you want it to be, just position it there. And that's it. Basically, this one thing that they have here. Now, sometimes we can make the mistake of dragging things. Especially when it comes to moving icons and moving things around. That mistake occurs where people mistakenly now drag something out of the frame. Let me Ctrl Z. Now, in order to avoid that for something like this, select this guy and then right click on it. You see something called lock. You just lock that shape. If you lock the shape, you don't have the risk of clicking on it and dragging. Every time you'd always move the frame itself. You should lock something that you don't want to mistakenly move. You understand? So you can see you cannot click on it directly. The only way to unlock it again is to select the entire frame. Then inside of the layers panel, you see that thing there. You see the padlock there. Now unlock it yourself. That now you can move it if you wanted to. But it's good advice for you that if something is floating, try to select that thing and just lock it. That mistakenly nothing moves it away. You understand? And that's that. Everybody just select that your two and just lock it. How do you do these other ones with auto layout too? Since I've already done this thing, I know all of them are the same size. This 711 is not text. It's a logo. If I want to add logo to anything, I'll just make a duplicate of this same one. I'll duplicate it. Right now that I've made a duplicate, I can see it here. I'll just expand on that. And then this one, this two, I'll just delete it from it because that 711 one does not have it. Now, if I want to put the logo inside, for this one, I'll just select the GS20 something and I'll delete that text. Now, this is just an auto layout that doesn't have anything inside. What I'll do is the background of the auto layout, I'll now fill it with a logo. The auto layout, I'll just come there where I have fill. I'll click on that box and then you see image. Image is the third one at the top here. Just say upload from computer. Let me take this. And pretty much, let's just say this is wherever it is. And pretty much this is, right? You can see this GS25 too. I have a feeling that it's even the actual logo of the company. They just filled it with an image rather than type text. So you can do it either way. You can have an image in the background or you can have text inside of it. But just note that the width and the height should be controlled to be equal to each other. Because for a circle, to have an actual circle, your width and height should be equal. You understand? To have a square, your width and height should be equal. Let's come back here. Let's now talk about the concept of this maps one. But my question is, how did they get this? How did they get this shape? It's a unique shape. This is a unique shape. Or wouldn't you guys agree? A shape that has something coming out of it like this and then it's stroked like this. Or won't you guys agree? It's a very unique shape. Let's come in and then let's try that out. I'll grab this one with the, what's it called? With the image. And I'll select the image inside because remember, there's an auto layout outside of it. I'll just take that and I'll just press Ctrl D. I have this second one. Now, what I want to have is I want to have text right beside, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to first replicate what is inside the logo and text. Let's come back here. I want text to replace this. I'll first type text outside. I'll first type text as I'll just say get flowers because I think it seems that's like a flower shop type thing. Now, with this, I'll now take this. I'll press Ctrl X to cut that text. I'll select this one. I'll right click and I just paste to replace. Now I have image and text next to each other. Basically what they had here. Now, the gap seems to be a lot in my own. The gap is smaller. Remember, we can control the gap. If this gap is even wrong, 13 is not good. I'll go down and I'll do something like 8. I can even do 4. I'll do 8, which is industry standard. 8 is good. Now we have image, we have text, and then we already have an auto layout around that. Now, how do we now get the white background with the stroke and then this stuff that is coming out here? First things first, let us first give it a white background. Remember, the text is supposed to be black. I'll just make the text black. This is touching the edge here and touching the edge here. If I come back to the design here, there's space and there's also space here. The space here seems to be equal to the space here. Therefore, I'll come back here to understand that the space between here is 8. Therefore, I'm going to do 8 from the edges. I just say 8. Now I have 8 from the edges and now it's looking equal. But before I do that, I have to note as well that this is round, but there's space at the top and at the bottom before we even get to the edge. I'll select this again, and then the top and bottom padding, I'll give it another 8. Then I'll do my best to then curve the edge totally. Now I have the peel shape first. The peel shape is now done. The stroke around it is the easiest. You can just select this and then just press plus, and we could just give it maybe like blue. Yes, we just won't try to give it a blue stroke. And I can just increase the thickness of that stroke. We can increase it as much as you want. Let's just give it 2. And now we have this. We have get flowers, we have the image and that. How do we now get this extra guy that is just popping off, right? Now, one of the ways to do this is either to use a square, and this is one of those times I go to use squares. But again, you can also use a frame. I want to stay away from shapes as much as possible. So I'll use a frame. And I would shrink this down. But I want this to be like size 16 or something. I'll lock the proportions to make sure I have 16 by 16. I'll say 16. And then what I'll do is I'll zoom in a little bit more again. And I want this to rotate. And I want it to be somewhere here, but in a way that this stroke then continues here, but it doesn't overlap here. What do? I'll select a frame and this guy together. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do something called a union selection. I'm going to do a union of this frame with this auto layout. It's going to merge the two of them together in a way that this one just gets absorbed into this guy. Union selection. Now, once I do that, everything is fucked up. What I wanted to show you guys there is, at this point, you now have to break your own rule of, what's it called? Your own rule of not using, like making sure the auto layout is always there. Sometimes you just have to break the rule. If you're trying to do something unique, then you definitely have to break the rules a little bit. What will now happen at this instance is, I'll take this guy and I will give it a stroke as well. I'll think, what is the thickness of the stroke here? It's 2. I'll select this guy and give it the same 2 stroke. Now, what I'll then do after that is I'll make the color exactly the same color as that. But you can see it's not blending, you understand? So I'll select this guy. Now, I don't want to have a stroke here and here. I'll do independent strokes. And the function for independent strokes is this one that's showing like a box, strokes per side. And I'll open that up and I'll just say custom left, right, up, down. The up side, I want it to be 0. You can see I've done the wrong side. Therefore, I'll give it 2 back. That means the bottom side is where I should be doing. Let's say 2 again. I'm going to go down. And now this is the first one that is accurate, the top side. That's accurate. For the other one too, this one will definitely be the other one as well. Now I have that looking nice, but it's not nice yet. I have to still move this guy in one at a time. By pressing up or down, you can move it using your keyboard is where you can then do it. 1, 1, 1, or move it down or move it up. Once I do one more, it has now blended with it. But the problem now that we have is, if we move this guy, they will never move together. Let's Control Z again. We want this guy to be inside this auto layout, but then we are now going to do that, ignore auto layout for it, and then we'll manually position it right there. I'll select it, and then I'll press Control X, and then I'll select the auto layout, and I'll press Control V. Now it is inside, just floating by the side, but I want it to be here. Can anybody tell me what am I supposed to click on to make this, to position it here?
You click on the icon.
Thank you very much. I'll just
click on ignore.
You understand? I'll center it, and then I just move it down one by one until it's there. But these are the centers. I want it to go more to the left side. And now it's there. Now, that I don't mistakenly move this guy away, what am I supposed to now do? Thank you very much. And then I will lock it. Now it's locked. Now, if I move it, it moves with it all around. And then no matter if I decide to make this text bigger, see, it's positioning with the length as well. And then I change the text and I say I want the text to say get dog foods. They adjust accordingly. And that's kind of like the beauty of it. And that's pretty much how you get that part with auto layout. You just put things inside. You can do independent strokes if it has a stroke, and then you just merge those things together. And that's just it. Let's now go back to recreating the actual UI with all of these guys are absolute positioned inside of this frame. They're ignoring auto layout. That's why they can overlap. They can stay in different weird positions and all of that. That is the concept. This one here, this box in the middle here, how you get this is just, you have this icon, text, dots, and these are all different things. All of these ones together, they're auto layouted together as one. This is text. This is also an auto layout together, right? Here, icon and text together, already you can see with that stroke, like that small shadowing, that they are auto layouted together as one. Then everything down here is this entire white space. They are auto layouted together. Then up here, we have image as one. And then we have these two on top of each other. These two will be auto layouted together because there are two images. And then these two together with that big image on the left side will then be an auto layout. And then at the end of it, everything together will then be one grand auto layout. And that's pretty much how it works. The same thing over and over. Once you understand that structure, it becomes easy to create and recreate. Let's break it. Let's come down here. This is it. What I want now is I want to design. Yeah, frame. I'll pick a frame. You always have to pick a frame. I'll pick this because it's the same 390 thing, right? Now, today, I'll not use grid, right, to design. I'll work with certain elements. Now, I'm going to do this with the style of wireframing, and then I'll come back and replace things. And you see how quick sometimes this can help you. I'll use frame. I want to create a frame inside of this frame. I want to create this area that is something that we can ignore for now because I don't want to be designing battery bar. I'll draw this rectangle, but I would give it a gray background. Left align, top align. Now, the height of battery bars on iPhones is typically 44. I'll just give it 44. I'll just widen it to the edge. This area, we are not designing anything into that area. I can even mark it like a pink color, just so that we know that. Later, we can come back and blend colors when we are done. Now, one of the first things I want to do is I want to have icon, text. First things first, create a frame again. But most times, I don't always create frames. I'll just come here. I'll duplicate this same frame. I'll change the width manually myself to 40 and this one to 40. Now, 40 by 40 is a good size. But sometimes you probably just want them to probably be about 32, right? That it's not too big. That will probably be the size of the icon. And if I'm representing an icon in wireframe form, I'm just going to make it dark this way. Next thing I need is the search Amazon SG. Let's just come in there. Search Amazon.sg. Let me see if that was there. Yes, Amazon. The Amazon is capital A. Please always try to pay attention to details. The capitalizations, all of those things matter as well. Now, this is going to be a slightly bigger text because this is kind of like big. Let's go up to about 18. And now I just arrange it next to this guy. Now, compared to that, this seems small, not exactly, right? I'll probably just go, I'll just leave it this way. I'm not bothered. Let me see regular. Regular is probably too regular. I'll do medium. Medium size is fine. Since I know this, I'll grab these two and I'll just arrange them first. And I know that I want to have another thing here, another icon here too. I don't know what the icon is going to, I know that it's going to be this icon, but I don't have it yet. Remember what I said? Because these two, they are closer to each other than this, they belong in one auto layout together. Highlight, Shift A, auto layout. The gap between them is bullshit. That's not a multiple of 8. I can do 16 or I could do 8. Designer's choice. As long as you follow the 8 rule, it's all good. Now, with this one too, we need to do one. Them together, Shift A as well. Now, the gap between, we cannot really calculate in this instance, but you'll see something I want to do. Now, with this auto layout, I want to give it a background. Unfortunately for us, if we give it a white background, it will blend into this main background. I'll just like to pick this frame and sample the green of Amazon. Color picker, so that they don't blend. Color picker, so that they don't blend that way. Now, I want to create this box. I'll give it a background of white. I've added plus, but the problem is, with that plus I added, there's no space at the top or bottom or left or right. Everything is just touching everything. But here, there's space at the top, there's space at the left side, there's space under, there's space here too. How do you do that? I'll just select this guy, and you see here, that padding and margin is what we are going to use. I'll just increase. Now we have more space at the top and bottom. For the left and right, increase it to, now we have space at the left and right. I can do more spacing if I wanted to, or reduce it back down. You understand? This is fine. Now, there is fine spacing. We now need to have the stroke that we have around the box. Select the box again. And I'll just say stroke. Now, please, whenever you're working with colors, don't ever use black zeros. The strokes are typically somewhere very faint. Your stroke should be a faint stroke. It should never be a very dark, stroke. Except you are doing what we call skeuomorphism. Skeuomorphism is like a concept of neo-brutalism, where everything is always sharp. Sharp colors, sharp lines, sharp everything. In most design, you are doing minimalism. Minimalism just requires you to make sure that your lines are typically faint grayish, right lines. With that, I'm good. All I just have to do is just curve the edge a little bit to match. And then I have curved the edge. And see, we have almost exactly the same thing. The only thing missing is just that it's not real icons yet. We'll still bring in icons and I'll show you how to do that. Now, this search Amazon, it's a placeholder. Placeholders are not supposed to be this sharp. They're supposed to be faint, almost the same color as the stroke as well. I'll just pick that and I'll just go down a faint color. Now I have something that's good. Now you will see something here that the distance between them is 94. But we want this to be stretchable, to be whatever we want it to be. Right now, it's not stretchable. If I stretch, this thing stays there. As designers, we want things to be a little bit stretchable. There's something you will now do with this distance between. If you want things to automatically adjust to whatever you want it to be, instead of 94, you will now type in auto means the distance would always depend on the width of the frame. If I change, it will adjust to it. If I want it to be longer, to be shorter, it would always adjust. This is how you design for responsiveness, by using that auto rule. The auto rule is the best way to design for responsiveness, especially when it comes to gaps between things. You understand? Instead of having the distance give you numbers, just type auto inside. Just type it inside and you are done. Pretty much. Just put it inside that gap. Just type, or instead of typing, just is there. is in the drop down beside the numbers. You see it auto. Just check that box. And then you can test it by checking if it adjusts automatically. And that's that. Without further ado, let's move this up a little bit more. And one of the things that I would say is that particular part is done. We'll come back to bring icons later. The next thing I want to now do is this next section. Now, I'm not going to be designing everything from scratch again. I'll just make a duplicate of this top area. But this time around, I will remove the stroke at the border and I'll make the corner radius 0. But then I want to make sure that this background reaches the other from end to end. I'll just stretch it and I'll stretch it here too. Now, one thing I don't need is this guy. I'll come back to this auto and I'll just make it 94 again. But I'll delete that second icon. Now, all I'll just do is I will increase this 8 until it matches the same position as this guy. I'll just increase. Now we are beginning to match the same position. Deliver to the United States is what the text is, and it's supposed to be a smaller and darker text. Select that. Now come here. I'll make the text darker. And instead of 18, I'll go down to about let's just say maybe 14. And then I'll change what the text is. Deliver to United States. Now, the color here is white, but do you know that you can, instead of just saying white, you can reduce the opacity of the white, that it blends to the background almost the way it does here, in a subtle light way. Remember, we're talking about saturation, and it's just like you're mixing white, but just a little bit of it. You can either pick from all of those color levels, or you can do this opacity thing. It's anyone you want to do, it's all good. Now, the next one again, that I can take this entire thing and turn it to this without creating everything again. And let me show you how. The way to do that is I'll duplicate this one again, bring it down. But this time around, the background, I'll make it 100%, that it's white the way it is here. And then the next thing I'll now do is I'll change the orientation of my auto layout from left to right to top and bottom. And I'll look inside here as well. I'll select this auto layout that is inside here, and I'll do top and bottom as well. But now this top and bottom, there's a problem. You can see it is kind of like doing like an L shape. We want it to be centered. We want the image to be at the center, the text to be under it, and it wraps. But remember, the image is very big. We have to make our own images too. I'll select this, and I'll just make this image from 32, and I'll probably go as high as 64. Right? Now, to have this round shape, I'll just do basically corner radius. Then, in order to get the text to be at the center exactly, I will take this auto layout and then change the orientation, because the orientation is saying left position. I want it at the center. Once I click align center, it puts it at the center of that auto layout. Now, if I now want this fresh and fast, this thing to adjust automatically, guess what I'm going to do? I'll click on the deliver. I'll first change the text. I'll type in fresh and fast. Now, if I want fresh and fast to wrap the way it wraps here, all I'll just do is I'll select the text and I'll change the width of my text. For the width, I'll say I want the width of the text to depend on the width of this guy at the top, right? Generally, the width of the auto layout. I'll just say I want it to fill container. Once I do that, it will wrap downwards. There are 3 main settings with this width thing. There's org, there's fixed. Fixed means I want it to be fixed to a particular number, a particular number that you yourself set. Org means it's going to automatically adjust to the number of characters inside or the size of the things inside. Fill means whatever the main container is, it should not go beyond the width of that main container. And that's what we have done by setting it to fill. Now, the problem here is this one is doing left align. We can stylize it as left align if you want to. But here, they have done a center alignment text. Therefore, I'll just select the text again. I'll zoom in. And you see here under typography, there's left align. Most text are left aligned, but want it to be centered, just switch to align center. And then that is that. Now that I've done this, all I just have to do is we've already created one. I just need to recreate the other ones as well. Select it, just press Ctrl D. It made another one under. I don't want it to be under. I want it to be sideways. I'll select the entire auto layout and then I'll arrange it sideways. But this gap is mad. This is a very mad gap. I'll take it down. I'll say let's do 40. With 40, it's not exactly what we wanted, but still, it's still a little bit better. Now, you guys will notice something. This shape here is like a round, but it's cut off at the bottom. Why is that happening? It's crazy as well. You understand? This is like creativity to an extent. To get that, I will select this shape. The problem is I will not be able to do exactly what they have done here. I can manually create like a rectangle inside of this, because this is a frame. So I can create a rectangle inside of it and then make it white that it blends with the background. It's just design trick, but let's come back to that one later. Now, to have more of all these other guys, I'll just select, just say Ctrl D. But first, let us even change the text of each one. Let's say today's deals. The second one, Amazon International Store. And then this one is electronics. And I'm sure there are others and whatever, but you can see it's breaking that line. Understand? It's breaking that. What we are going to do is we want to increase the size of these circles because it seems they are too small. I think this is bigger than that 64 that we did. I'll just hold Control and Shift together on my keyboard. So I can select multiple, instead of double clicking one by one. I'm sure you guys are still doing that. I'll hold Control to select something direct. Control will allow me to select something directly. You understand? But Shift will allow me to select multiple things that belong to different frames and different auto layouts, but I can select them as one. Control and Shift. And then I've selected the first one. I'll select this one. I'll select this one. I'll select this one. They are very similar. Their width will be the same. And I want them to be bigger. Select. Just make it bigger and bigger. And I think I like this size, right? The only thing I'll just do now is just reduce this gap because the gap here is not as much as that. Select the entire area. And we're just going to come to 40. And I think, for now, can anybody notice something? There's a problem here. I want you guys to look at it carefully. There's a problem here. What do you think the problem is here?
It's not straight. It's not aligned to the
And
the electronic shape is not aligned.
you understand? And why is it not straight? It is because
I guess it's because it's out of the frame before.
no, it is because it is our auto layout set. Auto layout is trying to align them center. We should be aligning them to the top so that they align at the top area. I'll just change this map. And just say top. Now it's aligned to the top. You get that's kind of like the fun thing about auto layouts. It makes you can do things really quickly. If I want to change this entire list to arrange top to bottom, I'll just change it like this. Now I have an entire top to bottom arrangement. This is the beauty of auto layout. I'm not dragging things manually. I can do them however I want to do them. That's the beauty of it. But first things first is, and I love the fact that you guys understood the reference of how to structure them. Understanding how to structure those things. Very important stuff. Let me zoom in. And let's come back in here. Now, one of the things that we're noticing is the gap here is not as much as the gap here. We need to reduce this gap. We'll allow this breathe a little bit more. Instead of this 32 from the sides that we have, we'll just take it down maybe to 24. Sorry. We could even do 16. That we have more space. And then the gap between them, we can even increase it to 16. But I don't want 16. I think I like that 8. And remember, a little bit of the next one was showing up. I'll just double click on electronics and just press Ctrl D. I'll probably just type in something like flowers. I'll just type in flowers so that we just know that there's more outside of that area. Now, you guys are noticing something as well. There's something inconsistent. There's a lot of gap at the top and a lot of gap at the bottom. There's a stroke at the bottom and a stroke at the top. But did you guys know that you can do separate padding for the top and the bottom? As it is now, we have 24 at top, 24 at bottom. But it seems there's more space at the top than at the bottom. We can do independence. There's an icon here. It separates top from bottom, left from right. At the bottom, I can just reduce that one to 16. That it's not as large as the top one. Now we have something that's almost as exclusive as this, but we have to move it up. I'll drag this up manually. Again, I don't like to drag things manually, but I just wanted to show you guys, just for arrangement's sake. Now that we have this, we have to note that this guy will have a stroke at the top and should have a stroke at the bottom. Stroke is there. Now we are done with that section. We can always bring in images later. I don't really bother about images. Images is usually the last thing I worry about whenever I'm working. But another thing I want to tell you guys is, from now, I can decide to auto layout all of these guys together. And then I can build the entire structure of everything else from here. Now, let me show you. I want you guys to notice something. This guy is touching this guy. Therefore, there's no much distance between them. But this guy has a distance from this other guy. Therefore, these two should be an auto layout. And then this one should be an additional auto layout outside of this. Watch. This guy and this guy, Shift A, they are an auto layout like that. This one would then be another auto layout, right, with this one. So that we can control that distance manually. Now, 18 is shit. We'll go to 16, and 16 looks like a lot compared to this. So let's just go down to 8. And 8 looks like the ideal corner radius for that, right? Now, to now continue building the next structure of the next section, I can just select these guys here, and I'll press Ctrl D. It just make a new copy for me down here. And in order to move it to the bottom so that I can start reshaping it, I can press up or down button to rearrange it anywhere I want it to be. That's why auto layout is good. You can just tap up or down instead of dragging around things. Up or down, and you've arranged that thing there. I'll send you guys a full tutorial on auto layout. It's nice. But at least this is like an introduction for you guys. I want you guys to take your time to then go back and then try to understand this auto layout thing properly. Here now, we have all of this. Inside here, I'll just undo this auto layout here, and I want to have text. I have 2 texts, 1 big image, 2 small images. Watch. I just take this text and I'll press Ctrl D. The problem is things are arranged left to right. That's why that other one is going outside. I'll just want things to be top to bottom. Next thing I want to do now, I want to make sure the background matches. I'll just pick this. I'll just go and sample the background from here. Now, I need 2 texts that are close to each other. And I want things to be aligned center. I'll select this auto layout inside here again, and I'll just say center top. Then I can select the first text and move it up by just pressing up or down. The second text, I want it to be under it as well. The problem is we have crazy gap between everything. One thing I'll just do is I'll select the 2 texts together. I'll just auto layout them, and then I'll control the gap. The gap should be maybe 24. Now it reduces that. But then this text is a bigger text. Therefore, I'll just say, make the text bigger. Let's go up to 22 or something, or 24. But can you guys notice something that is off? Why is this arranging them left to each other instead of center-wise? From the layout settings, just align it center. Now, this text is a little bit thicker. This one is not thick enough. What should I do to this text? Now, voila, Women's Day. Now, can you guys notice what's going on? The text is now flushing outside of the entire area. Remember what I did the other time that I did fill that I can wrap downwards. I'll just say here, I wanted to fill the container. Now it has wrapped, but this wrapping is crazy. It's too tiny at the center. I want things to spread out a little bit more. All I'll just do is select the main auto layout, because remember, this fill is dependent on the width of its surrounding auto layout. And this is the auto layout immediately outside of this text. That's why it will follow the convention of that particular auto layout. All I'll just do is just stretch this sideways, and then it's going to at least do something, right? Now, this one is left aligned. I'll just select the text and just center it here. Now we have celebrating International Women's Day right at the center. This looks bigger. You can make it smaller and then just go down by text size. I think size 22 is or 20 is fine. Yeah. But you guys will notice something. This guy is too close to the top than this guy. What should I do to allow more breathing space? Increase the padding. Let's give you more space. Then this one, there's too much gap in between. Reduce the gap. Just come here. Just say up to 25% off on books. Is March 8 to 22. Let me go back and change books to capital B. And that's that. Pretty much for the images, it's easy. Just duplicate this your icon thing, Control D again. But then we have to make it bigger. I'll select them. I just say I want this to have a good width. But remember, the two images should be side by side. This is a third image. I'll just make another duplicate, but it's not going to be the same size as those two. The problem we have here now is these images are beginning to just go all over the place. I'll Control Z back. I'll first auto layout these two. I'll take the two images. I'll say auto layout. Then I'll change the arrangement to be side by side. Now, this gap is crazy because we need to bring this closer to the top here. From the main auto layout gap, I'll just change it to, let's say, 40. Let's check again. Go down, 32. Let's just go to about 16. Yeah, 16 is fine. Now, what I want to do here now is to have two images that have more height than, should I say, width. I'm just going to select both of them. But remember, anytime I change the width, the height will also be changing. And why is that happening? It's because I locked their proportions to change together. I have to disable that. I'll just click on this, and now it's no longer blue. I cannot change the height however I want. Now I can have two books. I can increase the width a little bit just to give it that touch. Then the only thing I just have to do is control the space here. I'll control that space and I'll just say reduce that to 32. 32 is too big. We have to go smaller. 8 is fine. Now we have the books. We now need to have this image here. How do we get the image? I'll just take the books. I'll just press Ctrl D again. Now I have this third one will represent this image. But this one, I want the width to be wider than this other two. I just increase the width of this particular one. The image will fit into that, you understand, and blend into the background. Now, this is beginning to inform me that our books might be too wide and maybe too tall. I'll select both. I'll reduce the width of the books a little bit and the height just a little bit. And this height should match the height of those. I'll just reduce that too. I'll take these two books and auto layout them together. But one thing I will now do here is I want this to stretch because this image is touching the edge, but this one is not touching the edge. I want this to stretch and touch this other edge. I'll first check my auto layout settings. In my auto layout settings, you will notice something. There's a 32 padding there. I want to take away that padding first, 0, so that things can flow freely to touch the edge if I want them to. Now, with this one, I'll now set it to fill container. Once I fill container, it's going to be like left leaning. You understand? That's what will typically happen. But I want it to be at the center of everything. One thing I would now want to do, right, is remember we have these guys belonging to each other. They are fine. But I'll now adjust the padding only on the left, on the right of this one to push things towards this side a little bit. Watch. I'll do that and I'll just start increasing it. Now we have the image touching that area and we have these two having enough gap from that end. And we've already done that. To have more gap at the bottom, You just need to select the entire auto layout here, independent, and just increase only the bottom padding, just a little bit. Now we are in there. The next thing we now need to do is going to be this guy. We do the same thing, create it, and then we create another one on the side. And then this one's down here, we do that too. You understand? For now, I will stop here because it's going to be a lot of things. But one thing I want you guys to do is I'll send you guys a shot. I want you guys to try your best to use auto layout to execute that page almost as perfectly as it is. Remember to use 8. I want you guys to use 8. I don't want anybody using 10. This is the big boy corner. If you master this, you're automatically better than 85% of product designers. Okay, I kid you not. If you can master this auto layout thing, you're automatically better at Figma than 85% of product designers. I know product designers that don't use auto layout. The truth of the matter is the way product design is set up is as long as the design looks good and the UX is fine, they don't care whether you use auto layout or not. The only problem is as a designer, without auto layout, it's very hard to make quick updates. It will take you a longer time to deliver a new update as opposed to somebody who's using auto layouts. That is the key difference. You want to be fast, you want to be efficient, you want to be able to take 2, 3, 4 jobs so that you can do things fast. They ask you for something. Instead of it taking 2 days, you've done it in 1 hour because you have auto layout structures already. You can quickly just duplicate something, resize it, change the orientation from top to bottom or left to right, curve the corner radius, and you are done. Just change the image inside, and that's the end. That is the best way to design. You understand? As opposed to arrange it here and doing all of that stuff. I'll still teach you guys about grids. If you don't want to use auto layout for a while, you want to take your time to get into it, fine. Grids is very good. But with auto layout, you don't really need grids. You understand? You don't really need grids because you're already using the 8, 8, 8, 8, 8. Grid will just allow you to just cut things down into 8. You understand? But you guys will learn properly about grid. Trust me, like automatically, if you can master this, you are way better than 85%. 85% is a whopping number because these are new features that came into Figma in the last 2, 3 years. A lot of designers don't want to go back to start correcting the standards that they've had before. They just stay in the same lane. But with you coming in, the aim is for you to come in and then take those people's jobs because you are faster, you're more effective, you understand structures, and then you can make quick changes, create apps in 2 days or 3 days, that kind of thing.